I'm sure you've seen some Hollywood blockbusters that have really made you look and see how wonderful the world of visual effects is, such as Transformers. I remember the first time I watched Transformers, I was blown away by the level of detail that these artists can convey with technology nowadays. And there are a few core things, core skills, I would say, that you have to remember when learning about visual effects or doing visual effects. And that is that it's a team effort. Visual effects is definitely a team effort. It takes a large group of people to collaboratively work on a single project or even one shot of the Transformers. You also have to remember that visual effects has to be efficient and practical. You can't have visual effects and trying to hand off your project to the next person in the pipeline and have that be too much. And another thing to remember is believability is key. So when you're looking at the Transformers and stuff, while that may not be realistic, the world that they exist in is most definitely believable, and that's a very important part when creating visual effects. After you watch any of these movies, you always see the credits after, and the credits just go on and on and on and on. And the reason is because these movies are big budget; they take multiple hundreds of millions of dollars to make. And so they're able to hire all these artists, and they all have to come together and problem solve and think, how can I create this, or how can we fit this effect in there, or how can we do this? And it's very much about problem solving, especially when you work in something called production pipeline. The production pipeline is basically the start of your production, which would be shooting and everything, and then you work your way up until when it's finished. So each team member will do their part and then hand it off to the next guy. And a production consists of many individuals working together towards that same goal. And you have to understand your role and how to best fulfill that role working with your team members. And it's very important to be a team player when it comes to that, because without working together, none of these movies and none of this entertainment would be available to us. When working with these big budget movies, it's important to remember that visual effects can cover an entire range of mediums, not only computer graphics, but one of the biggest tools in visual effects would be paper and pencil. Simply looking at an effect or looking to create something, problem solving, writing it down, observing, analyzing what you have to do. So it's very important to not only have computer knowledge with coding and a general knowledge of computers, but that being said, it's also very important to remember that when working with visual effects and observing and trying to create effect, it's good to start from scratch and just to write it down and research and see be an observer of physical life and how can you replicate that with a computer, because that's really the challenge. Now, I'm sure some of you watch some really far out movies, like I said earlier, Transformers or Star Trek, and you might look at these movies and say to yourself, well, that's not very realistic, or that's not possible. But still, the movie fits. Everything in the movie fits, inside of the movie, and that is simply for the fact that it is believable. Everything in the universe that they create in the movie is believable in that world, and that is very important to capture that. And believability is not the same as realism. A lot of people get those two things confused. Often you've seen movies where something didn't appear correctly, and it kind of can take away from the experience of the movie. So it's important to constantly hand off your work to your directors and get critiques and say, hey, is this looking good? Is this looking believable? Is it fitting in the frame? Is it fitting in the shot? And you can't be afraid of getting critiques, and you can't be afraid of someone just throwing your work in the garbage and saying start from scratch. Because in this industry, that's what happens, and it's all about what the customer wants, what the client wants. And there's always clients, and they're commissioning you, they're paying you to give them what they want. So it's important to definitely get your work checked out and definitely get everything critiqued. Since I've been here at Full Sail and studying visual effects, I've noticed that nothing is static. Everything is in a constant flux, constantly changing. Deadlines might be moved. Everything is constantly moving, and there's no really nothing is set in stone. I'll just say that. So we have to continue to adapt and change to fit our industry, and that's what's really going to be important when working in the industry is your ability to work with others, your ability to adapt to new obstacles that come your way, to overcome those obstacles, to be a problem solver, critical thinking. And we, at the end of the day, we just have to remember that we're using the technology to successfully captivate an audience and tell a story with film or commercial, and it's really all about that connection. So that's what makes visual effects special to me. Is being able to create something that makes people say "wow," or it takes their breath away. That was always what was really important to me about visual effects. Thank you for watching. See you later.